I know, another video about Ozempic. Even the birds are chirping their disdain for this topic. A lot of us are tired of all the Ozempic commentary popping up in our feeds, but I'm just so disturbed and appalled by this whole situation. I just gotta get this off my chest for the one time. Hoi hoi family, it's your girl T, aka Nappy Headed Jojoba, not Nappy, not jojoba, nappy headed jojoba. It's like Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, the cradle of life. You have to say the whole thing. Quick plug before we start, just a reminder from last time y'all saw me. I have diversified my platforms to now include Locals and Rumble. So in addition to Patreon, you now have two other platforms where you could have seen this video early and uncensored before you're seeing it now on YouTube. So don't get caught slipping on my next one, and check out the links in the D box for early access to YouTube content, exclusive videos, live streams, Zoom events, the Nat Fam Book Club. You get the idea. We doing a lot. This is a quick sip on today because I'm borderline speechless about where we are as a society, that it has come to the point of people who do not have diabetes taking diabetes medication just to drop some lbs. I know firsthand that fat loss can be very challenging. I always say that while fat loss is simple, it is not easy. But never in my life could I have predicted that we would get here. Matter of fact, for as long as I have had any sort of corporeal consciousness, I've heard all sorts of different iterations of,
if there were some sort of magic pill everyone could take to lose weight, there wouldn't be an obesity epidemic.
That sentiment is always followed up with some version of, but there isn't. Eat less, move more. It's always been the case that if you're overweight or obese, the path forward would require nutrition and activity level changes to get you there. Again, simple, but certainly not easy. My, oh my, times have certainly changed. Not only do we have people flying to developing countries for bariatric surgery to skirt the qualification requirements in their home countries, qualification requirements that are in place, mind you, exactly for the purpose of preventing people from getting permanently life-altering procedures when they shouldn't. Not only do we have that, but now we have Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, maybe some other ones that I haven't heard of. These semaglutides, excluding Mounjaro, which is considered a terzepatide, let's assume I'm butchering that pronunciation, these medications are potentially permanently life-altering, and it's feeling more than a little dystopian that at this moment there are medications as coveted as a Telfar bag. Now, to be clear, semaglutides were not indicated only for treating diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes. From what I understand, the difference from using semaglutides to treat type 2 diabetes versus use as an anti-obesity medication comes down to dosage and brand name. Wegovy and Ozempic are sort of like Free People and Anthropology. Kind of the same and certainly made by the same company, but still a little different. Even with Wegovy being intended as anti-obesity medication, I'm bothered, straight up. For one, semaglutides have only been around since 2012, so when it comes to any potential long-term negative effects, there ain't really been no long term to even find that out yet. We still in the short term. I remember when I was a kid, there was an attempt to make fat-free fat, basically. These lunatics over at P&G tried to make an oil that was fat-free called Olean. They had the nerve to put the word lean in the name of this mess. Of course, the FDA approved this garbage, even though all the chips and crackers that used Olean legit had to tell people in the commercials that consuming this stuff would basically guarantee you'd have, and I believe this is a medical term, mud butt. People's assholes were getting blown completely out all the way up until 2015 or 2016 when they finally stopped selling the healthy alternative chips and other foods that were still made with this Olean garbage. So just because the FDA has given their full approval for Wegovy to be used as weight loss medication, it doesn't exactly assuage my concerns. After all, it wasn't too long ago that the same FDA was perfectly fine with y'all having runny dumps in some deluded pursuit of eating healthier by ingesting fat-free fat. Not to mention their more recent blunders on other issues. Plenty has been made of the celebrity angle with Ozempic, and frankly, that's why anyone even cares. And it's why I think whenever Newsweek or whatever outlet does their year in review, 2023 is going to be the year of Ozempic, especially since there are freaking ads for Ozempic in train stations at this point, and I can't seem to go even one day without someone accusing yet another celebrity of having Ozempic face in some comment section or another. Nowadays, everyone on the internet fancies himself an expert on Ozempic face and buccal fat removal. The rapidity with which this life-altering decision to take this medication off-label if necessary has become mainstream. normalize. Y'all, because again, we simply don't have the runway yet to even have the ability to know if there are severe deleterious effects from taking these medications, especially when used outside of the conditions set forth for how and to whom these are actually supposed to be administered. Yet, what we do know, which is that possible side effects can range from pancreatitis to kidney problems to thyroid cancer and more, even with us knowing that, there's still some folks on the Clock app stunning with their Ozempic jabs for likes. Wild. Some of y'all have probably heard about the situations where people who were actually prescribed Ozempic stopped taking it and then regained all the weight they lost and then some. In other words, not only do we not know the long-term risks, if you achieve your desired outcome with weight loss and want to maintain it forever, it's sounding like you'll possibly have to be on this stuff forever. From what I've read, these drugs work by making you feel very full on way less food. So it's sort of like a medicated bariatric surgery. Instead of physically reducing a person's stomach capacity through surgery, this drug gives you a similar feeling of just not being able to eat as much. On top of that, even when this medication is being prescribed for people with obesity properly, one of the conditions of actually meeting the requirements for the prescription is that there must be at least one weight-related comorbidity for the patient, and the medication is meant to be used in conjunction with exercise and glycemic-friendly nutrition. In other words, you still have to move your body, eat healthfully, and take care of yourself. This is not meant to replace all the hard stuff that has always and will always work to improve overall health and reduce body fat. But rest assured, there are plenty of people out there using these drugs explicitly to replace doing any of that. Anti-obesity medication means that it is supposed to be a medical intervention for obesity, i.e., not meant for trying to drop 10 or 20 pounds. I gotta say, Lauryn Hill was the one who put me onto any of this stuff about celebrities using diabetes meds to drop weight in one of her videos last year. I remember telling my friends about it back then because I was in absolute disbelief, and I remain as appalled today. A lot of the speculation going around now is tying this to mainstream culture moving away from the BBL aesthetic and back to thin as in. I got news for y'all. Thin was never out. That is not my value judgment on thinness, that's just the truth. As much as people speak on inclusivity and diversity now, thinness remains prized and desirable. Slightly increased visibility of other body sizes as a counter to thin ones ebbs and flows, and the types of these other bodies changes over time. Sometimes it's obvious pandering, but when it comes to the beauty standards of any given moment, thinness is the only constant. I do think that since plastic surgery isn't even the monetary flex that it used to be, and since BBLs and other procedures became more accessible to us plebes, I actually kind of want to dig into this specific hypothesis on the return of thinness as a preeminent symbol of wealth and status on its own. Maybe I'll do that as a podcast. Oh yes, girl. The same person who demanded that podcasts be abolished literally in my last video now has a podcast. In my defense, a lot of y'all been asking me to do one for almost as long as Ozempic has existed, so here we are. First episode went up last week on my locals and my Patreon. Links in the D box. Ew. There are actual diabetics out here who can't get their medication behind this BS with Ozempic becoming a trend and a social media flex. And if anything, we may start seeing an uptick in extreme thinness. I dare say we already are. Back when I was a youngster being indoctrinated with commercials for Olean potato chips, I remember the Callista Flockharts, the Lara Flynn Boyles, the Deborah Messings. It seemed like all them late 90s and noughties actresses were competing in their own Hunger Games. And back then, they couldn't even do the assisted starvation like today's Ozempic girlies. While I do remember tabloids remarking on their thinness when I was online with my mom at the Pathmark every weekend, they were still the stars of major TV shows, the it girls of that time. If anything, their startling thinness made people more fascinated with them, which kind of outweighs any critiques they may have been receiving for being too thin, you feel me? It's alarming to think that not only do we not know what's going to happen to these people sticking themselves weekly with Wegovy 30 years from now, we also have BBL and ponytail facelift grannies to look forward to. I can't wrap my mind around the ways that it has become completely normal for people to opt in to dangerous, expensive, permanent changes to their bodies with no regard for what that may mean for them later in life. We're going to have a lot of folks out here looking crazier than they already do in a decade or two. Perhaps more than anything, I'm just disturbed by the idea that a body shape, that a body type is a trend. Because trends end. I've made reference before to the fact that, well, guys in real life have always been checking for me and the myriad other black women with my body type. Shout out to my pear-shaped sistren. It was surreal to see this body type become mainstream, to see it trending, because your body is not a trend. So even though I thought it was interesting, I never let myself think that it would be anything but fleeting, especially when it became distorted through extreme surgeries into the walking wisdom tooth aesthetic. Again, I'm just talking about appreciation and beauty standards in media and social media, not in real life. Us pears ain't never had a problem being appreciated in real life. Seeing people go under the knife to keep up with body trends is absolutely surreal. And now that one trend seems to be winding down and evolving, there's going to be a lot of folks looking funny, full of regret, trying to research how to get their shit reversed, dissolved, and downsized. It's tragic. That's going to do it for this quick sip, but if you are as frightened as I am by the normalization of what I think are extreme methods to hop on a body trend, leave a comment or just a syringe emoji in the comments. Until the next video, make sure y'all stay safe, stay dangerous, and never trust anyone taking black market diabetes meds to stunt. Bye.
That's some nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now.